Thanks to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video.
I am inevitable.
Wait, he didn't finish his line. I was waiting here with a really great comeback, but he didn't finish his line, and now the moment's gone. Seriously, it's not easy for a human to hold all these Infinity Stones at the same time. I am literally dying here, and I was willing to do it for the big reveal. Is no one a professional in this town? Wrecker of worlds? More like destroyer of iconic movie moments. Forget the multiverse, the memeverse was gonna love this thing. Seriously though, did this guy go to Crafty or what? Effects department got a little bit too over-eager with their particulate effects. Why is he gone now?
And I am Ultimis.
What, there's a blue one now? And he's bigger? And he stole my line! My agent is gonna be hearing about this.
I always thought he talked too much.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, covering games both big and small. Today we're diving deep into one of the biggest games stuffed into a phone yet, Marvel Strike Force. Now, if there was ever a game to prove that big things can come in small packages, well, this one is it, my friends. Strike Force is an official Marvel mobile game operating at not just the universal scale, but at the multiversal scale. Thanos snapping away half of life in the universe? Big whoop. Forget that shriveled up raisin, we got ourselves Ultimis, the big bad blueberry out to take down the entire Marvel multiverse. And in Strike Force, it's up to you to assemble your own squad of Marvel's biggest heroes and villains to stop him. At last count, I think there's like 124 different characters to choose from, including some familiar faces that haven't even appeared in the MCU yet, like the Fantastic Four and X-Men. So eat your heart out, Endgame. This is the most ambitious crossover of all time. But outside of the strategy components of concocting the ideal team structure and figuring out how to best use their abilities in what can sometimes be very long, challenging battles, what most surprised me was the amount of plot that's actually put into this mobile game. Mission by mission, it tells the story of Nick Fury's newest team, Strike. And since you know that man loves his acronyms more than he loves cats and eye patches, you know that those letters are gonna stand for something. Strike, in this case, stands for Special Tactical Reserve for Interdimensional Key Events. Not to be confused with the Strike that's appeared in the movies, the Special Tactical Reserve for International Key Emergencies. Now, if that sounds familiar, well, it should. Those guys were in Captain America the Winter Soldier and Avengers Endgame as the undercover Hydra agents. So, important distinction to make here early on in the video, Marvel Strike Force equals good guys, MCU Strike Force equals undercover Nazis. Anyway, the key event that Strike has to deal with in the game is the threat of Ultimis. Ultimis is a Kree warlord and Eternal, wink wink for the new movie, who basically played Smash Brothers one too many times and started thinking, hey, brainwashing the good guys to do my bidding is a pretty good evil plan. And so he set off across the multiverse to collect the free will of every character that you know and love and shove them into red orbs. He's kind of like the Ash Ketchum of the Marvel multiverse. In the game, we're on Nexus Earth, the center of the multiverse, which, if it falls, gives Ultimis a gateway to all the other universes. And here's where things get weird. You see, to stop him, Nick Fury hands complete control of Strike over to you. You, the player, are simply known as Commander. Heck, you're not even asked your name until you level up a bit, and yet nobody so much as questions your absolute authority. We're talking Spider-Man, Kingpin, Punisher, Nick Fury himself. These are people who do not like to play nice, and yet they just kind of accept you as protector of the multiverse. And so that got me thinking a little bit, who are we? Like, obviously we're the player, but who in this canon has the power to boss around everyone from Nick Fury to Kingpin with no questions asked in such a high-stakes scenario? The likelihood of you just being a nameless higher-up leading a command seems highly unlikely considering how robust the Marvel fictional universe is. So then, what character do we play here? Who is the all-powerful commander that we're in charge of in the face of Earth's new greatest threat? Well, be prepared to be shocked. It's a name that you're all gonna recognize, but never in a context like this one. And remember, since this is just a theory, my personal theory, these are my personal findings and do not reflect the opinions of Marvel or Fox Next, the games maker. They wanted me to include that because apparently they're not all that confident in my conclusions. Knowing that we were a commander of some kind, I started in the most obvious place, looking at all the characters from the comics universe with Commander in their title. Commander A, Commander America, Commander Kraken, and Commander Cypher. And all of them washed washed out pretty darn quickly. Commander Kraken was pretty easy to discount considering he's dead. Well, most likely. He's been shot, confirmed dead in the underworld, and has also been killed off again in an ironic twist by his namesake, a Kraken. Which honestly is too bad because this guy is a pirate with a rocket peg leg and a laser cutlass. Regardless, any way you slice it, this guy is just not going to be commanding a whole lot of respect from Earth's greatest heroes and villains. Plus, he isn't quite fit for space. He is purely a seaman first and foremost. Our second candidate, Commander Cypher, only appeared in 4 comics as part of the limited Sabretooth and Mystique series. She's a key leader of AIM, an organization of scientists dedicated to overthrow of governments by technological means, which didn't seem like the type to join up with Nick Fury's cause here. And sure enough, she isn't. No other AIM members are a part of Marvel's Strike Force, or at least not yet, which means that Commander Cypher also is striking out. Bachelors number 3 and 4 actually introduce some interesting possibilities. The first, Commander A. Real name Kyoshi Morales, he's a Captain America who comes from the 25th century and exclusively appears in the Captain America Corps comics with his signature plasma throwing shields. Meanwhile, we had ourselves Commander America, yet another limited run comic character who's yet another descendant of the Cap that we all know and love. He's a bit closer to the present time, operating in the 22nd century, the result of generations of genetic engineering. His name, Steve Rogers 5. Well, it's technically Steve Rogers V, but I'm assuming that V is just Roman numeral V. And while both of these were promising candidates at first, what eliminates them both are actually the problems with their universes. You see, unlike other mainline characters who appear across pretty much every other reality out there, these specialty versions of Captain America aren't guaranteed to exist in any given reality, with Commander A coming specifically from Earth 11831 and Commander America hailing from Earth 90210. Sorry, that's Commander Beverly Hills. I meant Earth 90110. In Strike Force, we're on Nexus Earth, presumably Earth 616, and we need a commander who either spans all possible realities or just has himself a copy in each possible reality. These guys are just too special, too limited edition to do the job. So with those 4 commanders out of the way, I started to broaden my search. Who would want to protect the multiverse and would have such incredible trust from good guys and bad guys alike? Well, who else but the creator of the multiverse? Big problems like Ultimis require even bigger solutions. And yes, canonically, there is a character who did make this multiverse. And no, his name is not Stan Lee. Instead, this character is known as the One Above All. While often referred to as a he, the One Above All can take any form that they choose, and so could just as easily be any gender, just like any of the players out there could be in Marvel Strike Force. But you see, there's one major issue with this guy, and that's the other players. In Strike Force, the other players are all canon as well. You're working with them as an alliance to take down Ultimis, uniting with other commanders to complete large raids and participate in alliance wars. Players can even communicate with each other using the in-game chat application, which is on an unexplained interdimensional network. The One Above All exists beyond the multiverse, having created it themselves, and thus doesn't have infinite different copies of himself running around in all the different universes. So we have to think a bit smaller scale, and think about a character who exists independently within each multiverse, one that can also communicate with other versions of themselves freely. Luckily, Marvel canon provides us with the perfect candidate, and it's one that we all know and are familiar with: Merlin. Yes, that Merlin. Magic wizard, tall hat, King Arthur's Merlin, that guy. He is a canonical figure inside of the Marvel Universe. Except, in the Marvel Universe, his name is spelled with a Y because it makes him that much cooler, and also that much higher scoring in a game of Scrabble, provided you're allowing proper names. Anyway, it's worth noting that Merlin isn't just lightly canonical either. Not just some passing character in these universes. He's a key player in huge multiversal events from the Marvel canon. To be more specific, Merlin has existed in the Marvel Comics universe for eons, appearing as early in the timeline as 18,000 BC, but also is capable of traveling through time to be the Merlin that we all know from Arthurian legend. Canonically, it was believed that Merlin was born on an alternate Earth as a member of a race of immortal, powerful beings, only to eventually become a student of the world's Sorcerer Supreme, eventually rising to the role of Sorcerer Supreme himself. Eat your heart out, Doctor Strange. From there, Merlin becomes a pivotal character in the Black Knight story arc, where Percy, one of King Arthur's knights, takes on the secret identity of the Black Knight in his fight against Arthur's evil nephew Mordred. When Percy ends up losing the battle and dies, Merlin keeps Percy's spirit alive by casting a spell allowing it to pass on to new generation of Black Knights. The Black Knight then goes on to be a recurring member of the Avengers, even taking over the leadership role at times when Captain America is absent. It's also worth noting that both Merlin and the Black Knight in the comics have been known to get involved with the Eternals every now and then. In the modern age, Merlin lives on to protect the Marvel Omniverse to this very day. In fact, Merlin's official title in the comics is Protector of the Omniverse, a title he passes on to his daughter before taking it back after her death. If that sounds a bit confusing, well, that's the point, actually. Merlin's story, even his name, change frequently throughout the comics, as his character purposefully attempts to confuse and misdirect other characters about his true nature, which, wouldn't you know it, is also true of all the players playing Marvel Strike Force, all with radically different names, all with radically different appearances and background stories, all within their own universes, but communicating with each other. Also importantly, unlike the one above all, there are canonically multiple Merlins in different universes, exactly what we need for a game that has itself a multiverse of commanders across its player base. And not only that, these infinite Merlins in their stories have been known to form a gestalt, allowing them to freely communicate with each other in order to solve multiversal threats. Sounds kind of like hundreds of players using an unexplained multi-universal communication system to unite against the big blue baddie himself of Ultimis. Most important to the core of the Strike Force experience, though, is Merlin's ability to travel through time. Merlin is described as being able to travel through time forwards, backwards, and sideways. It's a very interesting description of traveling through time, but one that actually makes sense in the context of Strike Force. You see, in Strike Force, a few different campaigns play out simultaneously. The primary Heroes Assemble campaign starts just before the Villains United campaign, but it's clear that they're not totally in sync with one another. At the end of the third chapter of Heroes Assemble, Nick Fury gets stuck on the wrong end of an interdimensional portal and gets himself captured. This launches an entirely new Nexus campaign to save Nick Fury, so the player can freely play across any of these three ongoing campaigns at their own pace. But that also means that sometimes Nick Fury will simultaneously be captured in an alternate dimension while also giving orders during the Villains United campaign. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? To a human SHIELD agent, this would be madness. But to Merlin, this kind of convolution of time and space is just his bread and butter. Merlin is one of the very few characters of the Marvel Universe who has such masterful control over time. Time travel comes into effect again as you have the option to replay old battles for rewards. Clearly, going back in time to redo a battle isn't something within the capacity of SHIELD, nor is it within the capacity of most of the franchise's heroes. I mean, it could be Doctor Strange, but he's already a usable character amongst the game's 100+ character roster, so it's not him. Merlin, on the other hand, is not only an important, well-known figure, he doesn't appear in the character roster, leaving him open to be the secret identity of us, the player character. Even things that are less about plot but more obviously about standard gameplay actually start to make more in-universe sense if Merlin is the character that we're controlling. As you travel through your campaigns and raids, you have the ability to see what's coming down the line. In the campaign, you get to see all the information about your upcoming fight's opponents. In raids, you have a clear vision from the get-go of all the enemies that you're gonna have to fight along the way, right down to their power rating so you know exactly how strong they are. That is non-trivial information, as you can decide what paths to go down based on what enemies your team is more likely to be taking down. And wouldn't you know it, Merlin, in addition to being a multiversal being with time travel abilities, also happens to be gifted with foresight. He's able to look into the future and get the details that no one else is gonna have. In the end, it is so obvious to me, and to you I'm sure, that I have overthought this game. This is my own personal headcanon, and honestly, there's a lot of evidence to back it up. In the end, there's not really one key element that lets you know that you're Merlin, but instead, it's a series of hints and clues that can only align to one character, one across the hundreds of characters that have appeared in the Marvel franchise over the decades. The multiversal nature of the Commander character limits our selection massively from the get-go, but once you also factor in the natural cross-universal communication systems, the time travel, the foresight not already appearing in the roster of playable characters in this game, only Merlin checks all of those boxes. As the protector of the Omniverse, Merlin is exactly the person to call when a threat like Ultimis shows up trying to take it all over. He's capable of commanding the respect of both heroes and villains, while being one of the only characters in the Marvel system to get away with giving orders to Nick Fury himself. But Merlin is also limited. He's not some godlike entity that can change the nature of the game itself, but he's a player in it. His enigmatic nature makes him a perfect chameleon who could be represented by any one of us playing the game. And he's been known to pass on the Protector of the Omniverse title to others, like his own daughter. But today, it looks as though he's passed on the power to us, trading in a magic wand for a magic smartphone. Fingers crossed that we don't let that universe down. But hey, that's just a theory. My personal theory. These are my findings and do not reflect the opinions of Marvel or Fox Next, the game's maker. Thanks again to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video. If you're interested in squad-based strategy games with gotcha elements, then I absolutely recommend giving Strike Force a try. You know the drill, link is in the top line of the description. And to celebrate the new year, the Marvel Strike Force team is giving players a special gift. The Guardians of the Galaxy favorite, Groot. I am Groot. You are Groot. We are all Groot, or at least we can all be Groot if we play Strike Force sometime in the next 30 days. I was gonna get you all flowers and chocolate for the holidays, but I figured why stop there when I could get you all a giant warrior tree for free in this game. So take on the mantle of Merlin and guarantee getting yourself a Valentine's Day Groot by downloading and playing the game for free today.